abiding life to be found in you, Lord. The abiding life. You are our refuge, Jesus. Live in me, and may I be found in you.
Expectations, situations, they all color how you experience life. And so here Jesus comes back to the Sea of Galilee, right? He had departed from there to go up to the area of Tyre and Sidon, and the area known as Phoenicia. And he comes back. And when I was reading these passages, I was thinking, this has got to feel like he's just kind of coming back and doing the same thing that he did before. I mean, even with the feeding of the 5,000, there was the same gathering of multitudes before. There was the same healing of a great many people. And then then they went into the feeding of the 5,000. It's just another amazing healing event by Jesus. But something here is actually quite different. Something is actually very different. The difference is, and this may seem very simple, the difference is that this is a new crowd of people. This is a new crowd of people, right? It's one thing for us to read about it and say, okay, it's the same miracle. For the people who were there and experienced the healing and the touch and the power of Jesus Christ, they're not thinking, oh, we're getting the second dibs of this thing. They're thinking, this is amazing that Jesus came back for us. This is another group, a large group, and this crowd is different. And they're different not only because they're new people or different people, they're different also because of who they are. If you read in the parallel accounts, you will understand that when Jesus says that he skirted the Sea of Galilee, that he actually is going on a different side of the coast. And this is very important to understand geographically. When Jesus fed the 5,000 people, he was on the western side of Galilee. I know that this is flipped up for you guys, but just bear with me. So he was on this side. A region that was largely the home of those who were already Jewish people who had known about the Lord. He goes now on this side, and we know this because it says at the end of the passage that he crosses over to Magdala, which is on the other side. So he's on this side, and this is the side of people that were Gentiles, who had maybe only heard of the God of Israel but did not worship him, did not ascribe to him as the Lord, did not follow him, did not need him. And so we read in this text of these multitude and the healing that then happens, and we end with these words that after the blind seeing and the lame walking and the maimed made whole, it says they glorified the God of Israel. This is why I pointed this out in the introduction. It's because they are a people that only know of the God of Israel from a far distance. And this is the first time that they are actually making an inroad into this place of true life. You know, it's really easy, speaking with, again, expectations, it's really easy to think of as Jesus coming and healing the Jews, the people. In fact, even in the previous section, he told this woman who was in Tyre and Sidon that he came for the lost sheep of Israel. It's easy to understand why he would do that. But then to come to this other region and to begin to pour out his love and his compassion and his power on them would have been a really big deal for those people. Why is this man coming over here? Why is he healing us? Why is he pouring out his power? Why does he have compassion on us? And not only is this a different group of people in a different region who have come from a different worldview, look how long he stays with them to heal their diseases. He stays with them for 3 days. This is actually quite the distinction to the feeding of the 5,000, where he was there for basically 1 day or one afternoon. He is now with the foreigners 3 days, healing them, before they finally get to the point of this miracle of the feeding of the 4,000. And I'd like you to consider how in your own life, how the expectations of God in the lives of believers and in the lives of those who are maybe here or gathered at a church, how you may have forgotten how much He loves and cares for those who are outside. And how His love really does not have any kind of boundary for its expression here versus somewhere else. And it's such an easy trap to fall into as a believer. To think that now, since you have received the Lord's love, that you are maybe one of the only partakers of it. And that is simply not true. His compassion extends beyond borders of your imagination. He goes to people that do not deserve for Him to go to. He wants to be in the lives and provide healing for people that don't deserve it at all, who are in fact contrary to Him. We so easily get caught in the bubbles of our own faith life. Even in the bubble of this gathering. As I preach, as I speak, I see car after car after car passing on this road out here. He has every desire to show His compassion and His love to those people as they are going down the street, as He does to fulfill and speak to you this morning in this room. There is no difference from His vantage point about how He cares and loves people. And Jesus wants us to know this, that He is not in some kind of box of our making. The passages from the 2nd chapter of Romans are very applicable to understanding and seeing this and the distinction between the feeding of the 4,000 and the 5,000 because of the geography and the people and the Lord's compassion for them. In Romans 2, verse 11, it says there is no partiality with God. And you probably know this, those who are Bible scholars or who have read much of the New Testament, that this was a huge juggernaut in the unfolding of the New Testament. Was for people to have understanding that God did not want to have a boundary of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but that He wanted to be something that was transcendent and able to be available to all people. There is no partiality with God. And actually earlier in the same chapter, in verse 4 of Romans chapter 2, that the goodness of God leads you to repentance. And I can only imagine how much goodness was being poured out here for these Gentiles. Imagine, for example, this region and what these people would say even months and years and decades later, that there was a day when this man came, sat down among them, and for 3 days healed every person that was brought to him in their community. What kind of meaning and love poured out would that have meant for them? You couldn't have spoken poorly of that. You couldn't have turned an eye to that. You could only have said, really, that's incredible. Wow. That's the God of Israel.